right. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to our monthly financial wellness conversation with Greater Bethel AME Church and our coordinator, Kiara Hall. We'll continue to talk about faith, family, and finances. And I want to ask everyone that's watching on social media, I want to ask you to share the post. If you'd like to come and be a part of the conversation, pinned at the top of the comments on social media, you'll see a link to bring you on the Zoom platform. Just click that link and you can come and join us on the conversation. But again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Share the post, and I now place it in the hands of Kiara Hall.
Hello, everyone. Hello. So last month, we ended off the conversation with the first steps to financial success is to pay yourself first. And we are going to wrap up faith, family, and finances this month. And what we're going to start today off with discussing is what is your most valuable asset? And so when it comes to our most valuable asset, some might think, well, maybe it's my car or it's my house. But in reality, our most valuable asset is our ability to earn income. So, for example, when you think about how most families work, you have a household income. Maybe let's say the dad is making $30,000, the mom is making $30,000, so it's a household income of $60,000, and all the income goes to the bills, giving, insurance, debt, savings, mortgage, and taxes. And so, God forbid, if someone were to pass away in the home, the income is either cut in half, or if it's a single parent home, the income goes away, but the responsibilities are still there. And so today I want to talk about how you could actually take insurance to protect the income so that, God forbid, if you pass away, the income can still keep coming for your family. And the scripture that I want to use to talk about this concept of a good steward planning and preparing for their future is Proverbs 13, verse 22. So Proverbs 13:22, it says, a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of a sinner is laid up for the just. And so basically, what this scripture means is that a man or a woman following biblical principles will look after his or her family, both in the here and now and afterward. And so if this person has to work, then he has to have insurance. That way, God forbid, if anything were to happen to him, he could save, make sure that his family is taken care of and that they have the proper resources. Because, in reality, if we're working now, that means that we're taking responsibility for our family. And if we pass away, we should not expect the church to all of a sudden to start providing that income, or we shouldn't expect other people to pick up that responsibility we have, because if they could, then why do we work now if those organizations or different people could take care of our family? And so we are not only to care for ourselves, but for our children. And we cannot see, if we cannot see that our children are cared for properly, even when we're dead, then we're not really leaving an inheritance and resources to take care of our children. And so sometimes there's this misunderstanding that life insurance is just for funeral costs, but in reality, it was created for this right here, to leave an inheritance and to leave that provision for our family. And the children should not be supporting the parents after death, but vice versa. And so then the question becomes, is your income properly protected, or have you planned and prepared? And I would love to hear your thoughts and feedbacks on what I have shared so far.
Kiara, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
I think you lead right on point. And I think that we need to always be mindful in sessions like this to take advantage of these type of things with dealing with insurance when you are healthy. That need to be the main thing, because I'm telling you from experience, when you start getting pre-existing injuries and all this stuff like I got, it makes it difficult. So I think we need to let our kids know, as parents, we need to act while they are healthy. And as they grow older, they can pick up where we left off, because we just don't know that, if you really want to say it, we all just a doctor's appointment away from somebody telling us something in a split second that we didn't want to hear. And it could be a game changer, a real game changer. I just went, matter of fact, real fast, I went and got some life insurance today. And the policies that I have to deal with, I have to pay a lot of money. Not only that, I have to live 2 years before they even go in effect because of my health conditions. So I think it's very important, as part of, like you say, an inheritance, to do it while they're young and while they are healthy. So I thank you for leading me that way, because I'm experiencing, this is somebody that's experiencing it, not what I heard. Thank you for letting me say that. All right.
My comment is, a lot of people live for today and they think that tomorrow will never come. And, just to piggyback on what Minister Cohen has said, you never know what may occur in your life. You could be the most healthiest person around. There could be an accident. There could be anything that can occur. So rather than just live for today, you should also be mindful of the future and make sure that if anything happens to you, that your spouse or loved ones will be taken care of, and they do not have to struggle for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Are there any other comments before I move on to the next point?
Yeah, Kiara, I just want to say this right quick. It's almost remind me of not having your house in order in that respect. And then when I flip around to dealing with Jesus, it's the same thing, like getting our life in order with him, because he can come quick. And it's just like, it's a sad testimony when somebody got to go and tell the pastor what to say about your child. I mean, because it almost line up to what you're saying. You didn't invest nothing here. Now you're looking for this conversation. So like Sister Ross said, we have to do things on both ends now while there's day, because when night, no man can work. And then when there's not knowledge, we leave no inheritance. That's all I got. I just had to lean on that. I felt that. Okay, that's it.
That's good. That's good. So, I bring up this point just to just bring awareness to the purpose of life insurance. Sometimes it could just be seen as maybe just something for burial. And I think some people don't know, it's not taught in school, that life insurance was actually created to replace income. And experts like Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey recommend having at least 10 times your annual income in term life insurance coverage, so that, God forbid, if something happened to you, there's enough insurance in place to replace that income. So, for example, if someone made $30,000 a year, then they would want $300,000 in life insurance. And the younger you are, the cheaper it is, and the healthier you are, the cheaper it is to be able to lock in that type of coverage. And then, at our last session, we talked about the power of compounding interest. And so the life insurance is there so that while you're building wealth, God forbid if anything happened, that protection is in place. But there's a point in your life to where you've been investing and saving for retirement, and you've been doing the right things. And so now you actually have assets and your responsibilities have decreased. So your children are at a point to where they're adults and they're independent. Your debt is paid down. And so now when you get to that phase in life, your responsibilities have decreased. And because of that, your need for insurance has decreased, as long as you have put yourself in a position where your assets have increased. And so you're not necessarily needing as much insurance because now your assets are there. So for example, if I got $300,000 of insurance as a 30-year-old, but now by the time I'm 60, I have $300,000 in my investments. I'm at a phase where, okay, I'm not needing the insurance anymore because I have the assets and I still get to leave an inheritance for my children's children and leave behind things for my family. So I wanted to touch on that. And then the next thing that I wanted to touch on is really understanding how there's a scripture that I want to touch on, and it's Luke chapter 6 verses 47 through 49, and it's about building on the rock. And so Luke chapter 6 verse 47 through 49, it says, "Whoever comes to me and hears my sayings and does them, I will show you whom he is like. He is like a man building a house who dug deep and laid the foundation on the rock. And when the flood arose, the stream beat vehemently against the house and could not shake it, for it was founded on the rock. But he who heard and did nothing is like a man who built a house on the earth without a foundation, against which the stream beat vehemently, and immediately it fell. And the ruin of that house was great." Luke 6, 47 through 49. The version we have on the screen it says, "I will show you what it's like when someone comes to me, listens to my teaching, and then follows it. It is like a person building a house who digs deep and lays the foundation on the solid rock. When the floodwaters rise and break against the house, it stands firm because it is well built. But anyone who hears and doesn't obey is like a person who builds a house right on the ground without a foundation. When the floods sweep down against the house, it will collapse into a heap of, I can't see that last word, a heap of ruins." So this whole segment on faith, family, and finances, we talked about compounding interest. We talked about life insurance, how God desires us to prosper, and just the statistics when it comes to wealth. And the truth is that a dollar saved is a dollar earned. And it just starts with building good habits. I know some people are watching this and they're thinking like, okay, this all sounds good. I want to do this, but I'm barely making enough to pay my bills, And I believe that, we shouldn't despise small beginnings. And if we practice good habits, we will put ourselves in a position where we build a strong, solid foundation. And the goal and purpose of this financial ministry is just really to give people that knowledge and that education so that there can be goals set and people can begin moving in the right direction. And if your current income will not allow you to reach your goals, the beautiful thing is that we have options, and we're so blessed, and we're surrounded by people who have done so many different things. Like in the age of social media, I get to see so many people who are excelling and be able to learn from people who, have maybe started a pest control business. Like we have Brian on maybe like 6 months ago or so. We have people who are getting into real estate, and people who get in financial services, or people who do makeup or waxing. And then we have people who go and they get their CDLs. And so now they're able to make more income because they got a license. I'm seeing so many people go to school and getting degrees to become nurses or doctors. And so if your current income will not allow you to reach your goals, you have the option to increase your education, to learn a trade, to learn a skill, to find another source of income. And I think that it's really a blessing, because I'm seeing people make money in so many different ways. People are, making money through their art. I know someone who really loved dogs, and she started a dog walking business where she just started advertising that she'd walk people's dogs for them. And so if you're sitting on here and you're thinking like, man, I want to take advantage of some of these principles, I want to start saving, I want to get some life insurance, but I'm not even making ends meet. If I could leave us with a note, it would be to first just write the vision and make it plain upon the tables. Like, write the game plan, write what you want, figure out, when do you want to retire? What do you want life to be like when you retire? How much, like, maybe you're living paycheck to paycheck, but checking and see, okay, how much does that life insurance cost, so I could get that foundation and that protection in place, and just begin looking into those things, and begin mapping out what type of income you need to be able to live the life you want. And I believe that with vision, that it'll help you to be able to take those next steps. And that is actually the end of, that is wrapping up the faith, family, and finance presentation. So at this point, I want to open up the floor for any questions, any comments, and in regards to everything that we've been talking about with faith and family and finances.
Here, I'm gonna go and step out again. Again, when you saying like budgets and barely making it, what I found out dealing in my situation is that somebody will take your money, and somebody will fit your needs. Because I was talking to some people today, some insurance companies and this and that. They said, well, how much money can you afford each month? I say, I don't want to exceed over $100, maybe 105, but I want, well, how much insurance you looking for? I say at least 25. I say, with all my health condition, I want no questions asked about health. Work with it. So I end up today finding a company, RAT 101, with 30 and 20 for accidental. What I'm trying to say is that with your budget, you have to shop around, and you can't give up. You just got to keep going and keep going. Somebody will fit your needs. So that's all I got to say about that. But it is somebody out there that'll fit your needs. And then I look at, I think I was telling somebody this about buying houses and this and that. And when you're talking about inheritance and generation, I think every parent buy a house is really buying the house for their kid. And I think every kid that buy a house is really buying a house for their kids, because we enjoy it for a minute, and that's good. But we want to be able to, when we leave here, to make sure that our kids don't have to start so hard to try to get on their feet. So it's just and that's where the generational ball just keep turning and turning and turning. Because if we didn't do that in the way, special times now, it's tough. So I appreciate these type of workshops, because it's some things that you encouraged me about that I went out on faith. I just don't want to do it on this setting here. But I tell you, you're very, I don't want to use no big word. I want to use one way I can understand it. It's helpful. Very helpful to somebody just like me. Thank you for all that you present in this type of ministry. It's very beneficial, and it has been for me. I learned so much. You sent me in right avenues. Even with the insurance, we done talked about real estate. You put people on this thing that encourage people that feel like they can't do it. But you have put people on this line that's saying that it can be done. So I just want to say thank you personally tonight.
My pleasure. My pleasure. You know, my overall goal is just to make it reachable, attainable, realistic, and just simple, and for people just to open up the space for people to be able to learn in a way that's not intimidating, or where they can just get a little piece and run with it. And you know, if somebody's watching and you're wanting a life insurance quote, I'll comment in the chat and you can totally reach out to me and I can get you a quote. And if I'm not able to help you, I could, you know, point you to someone who can. And then Roxy, I think you were about to say something.
Yeah, I wanted you to finish. Yeah, your information has been very helpful, and it's good. It's good to have information, especially for when you. Let me just start from the beginning. When you earn an income, it's good to know what is the best way to spend. What is the best way to invest? And you've certainly have given us information regarding that. Sometimes individuals are afraid to ask questions because they may appear as though they're dumb or uneducated or what. Any question is good to ask because that's providing you with information that may be helpful, not only for you, but also for your children, to also teach them. And when they see that you're handling money a certain way, it may be a good lesson and a form of education for them, and starting very young in terms of how to handle your money and your finances. I think that is key in any household. So, as I said before, the information that you are providing is very helpful. You're not talking over anyone's head, and you also allow individuals to ask questions. So, and if they don't understand, and also leading them in the right direction and giving them resources as you go along. So again, I just feel the information is very helpful and beneficial.
Amen. Amen. I love it. If there are any other comments, I definitely would love to hear them. And then I also want to play a video. It's just shy of 7 minutes. And it's a video that one of my mentors created. And it just digs a little bit deeper into our topic today. And just really understanding life insurance and how it literally is a catalyst for creating and maintaining wealth for generations. And so any financial savvy person who, you know, has forward thinking takes advantage of this strategy. And honestly, it's an extremely old strategy. So I'm gonna share, let's see if I can share my screen, and I'm gonna share my sound. All right, let's see, share. Okay, perfect. And I'm gonna play this video, and then afterwards, I think that we're gonna be able to have a really good discussion. And you all already know, whenever I play videos, I really love hearing the different points of views and the different thoughts on it. And I believe that none of us is as great as all of us, and it's really powerful to be able to come together and talk about these things. So I'm going to play this video and let me know if you can hear it.
Stephen and Wendy Sue, thank you for meeting with me again.
Can you hear it okay?
Talked about the plan to get you out of debt. We already started that.
Not clear.
We talked about the college fund
Not-
for your two people, children, your retirement plan. Also, we set up the emergency fund. What I'm going to show you now is how to protect everything we've done. All right. But I'm also going to show you also how to create, as you talked about, generational wealth. Are you guys big on generational wealth and making sure your kids do better than you?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, great. What I'm going to show you right now is what the insurance industry doesn't want you to know. Right? Our company, we're not an insurance company. As a matter of fact, I'm the insurance agent's worst enemy because I'm going to show you how to beat the house, how to beat the insurance industry. The way you have to look at insurance, okay, is you have to look at it as though you're buying money. Right? It's hard to think something like that. When you buy a car, you buy a TV, you buy a refrigerator, you buy furniture, you buy a house, you know you're going to be going to the store, paying for something, and walking out with that item. Am I correct? When you buy life insurance, you have to think of it the same exact way. You are buying money. You're paying the insurance company to take the ultimate risk, okay, of giving your family a bigger check than what you gave them. Okay? Now, the way they make their money is that they're betting that you're going to live a long time. If you pay the monthly premium for a long time, then obviously they're thinking we'll make money on that 30, 40, 50-year premium. Right. But if you kill, God forbid, prematurely or die prematurely, they end up losing. Okay? Well, I'm going to show you how to set up your children's children, okay, financially by using this tool, okay, to help create generational wealth. Fair enough? Yeah. All right, so watch, I'll use me as an example, okay? So, I have a term policy, and you can always do this best with term insurance. I believe in term insurance 100% of the time because why you can get high value for low cost. So I have a policy on me, value is $3 million. My wife Patricia has a policy of $1.5 million. So we bought $4.5 million of money from our insurance carrier. Now we're going to pay, because of our age, I got it when I was 40 years old, I'm paying $441 per month for $4.5 million. Now $441 a month times 12 is $5,200 a year. Now we don't live year by year. We don't live month by month. We don't live week by week. We live what? Day by day. Right. But we're gonna pay the premiums once a month, not every single day. Okay. So $441 a month for $4.5 million. Times 12 months is $1,500 a year I'm gonna pay. Well, I have a 35-year contract with the insurance company that they're not going to raise my rates for 35 years. Now, I can cancel them, but they can't cancel me. Okay. All right, so it's in my favor. Well, if you take $5,200, my dad died at 72. My mother, unfortunately, died at 75. I bought this when I was 40. So being very honest with my wife and kids, my life expectancy is somewhere in there. Right. All right, so I have a 35-year level plan. So I'm 40 years old. That means at age 75, this will come up for renewal. So watch this. So $1,500 a year for 35-year agreement. I'm going to pay $182,000, actually $185,000 in premiums over the course of 35 years. That's going to go to the insurance company. I'm not going to get that ever back. Okay, that's their how they make their money. But when I pass away, not if, they're going to give my children $4.5 million. When me and mom pass away. We just bought $4.5 million of money for $185,000. There's no investment you can get anywhere that where they guarantee you $4.5 million and you only put in $185,000. Wow. This is why the insurance companies don't want you to buy term insurance because you'll ask for more coverage and pay less premium. Okay. See how that works? Yeah. Now, my children receive a check for $4.5 million on the passing of mom and dad. We have it set up where my two children, Gary and my daughter Kristen, will take that lump sum and they won't blow it. If they just put that $4.5 million into a measly 5% interest-bearing account, it's going to pay them $225,000 a year in interest income. Wow. That's just the interest without touching the principal. Right. But they're going to take the interest from that, because at that point they're married with kids, assuming that. They're going to take the interest from mom and dad's face amount policy, and they're going to increase their policies to $10 million each. Okay, now mind you, they're not having to pay the premiums because the interest from my policy is paying the premiums. See how that works? So Gary gets $10 million, my daughter gets $10 million. When they pass away, because that's one thing that's for certain, years later, their children are going to inherit $20 million. Wow. See how that works? Crazy. And if their kids take the $20 million and don't blow it and just put it in a little measly 5% interest-bearing account, the interest from that will pay them $1 million a year in interest income, $83,000 a month. They take that money and they insure themselves. And 3 or 4 generations from my death, I've created generational wealth where we could very well have children's children that are worth $100 million, $200 million, even a billionaire. That's the Kennedys, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts. Now, here's the trick. Once you set this up, you don't want to ever let your policy lapse. I told my wife, Patricia, okay, if we fall in financial hard times, get rid of the cars, the house, everything, but don't you let this policy lapse. So if you do, the insurance company is going to keep the premiums and not have to pay the claim. See how that works? Okay, so what we want to do now is set you guys up to have your children's children's children inherit generational wealth. Fair enough? Yes. Okay, so this makes total sense? Yeah. Okay, this is why the insurance companies don't like our company. Because we're not an insurance company. Wow. We're teaching people how to actually buy term, invest the rest. If you die too soon, your kids are taken care of. If you live a long term, you have a nest egg to live on. Right. See how that works? Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Gary Cornegay is one of my favorite people, one of my favorite mentors in business. I love how he talks about generational wealth, and he has such a great business mind. Like, I've learned so much from him. And I just, life insurance is so powerful. It is so powerful, and it literally gives us the opportunity to create that generational wealth, to leave to generations from now, be able to create it to where our family is billionaire. We don't have to like look at people like Warren Buffett and think, oh, well, that's them, that can never be me. Because in reality, we could all create that generational wealth for our families.
Kiera, yeah, I got something in there. It's just good that we got the type ministry we got at Greater Bethel to provide this type of information, because only thing I got against me now is my age. And I'm so glad that you're reaching out, that people can really catch this thing even with my age. One thing I got out of that, if it wasn't for these type of settings, I would be kind of scared. And I hear millions and millions and millions. But then where I come in at, I just look at same concept, but different money. So whatever money you got, the brother done told you, you can use the same concept. You might not be dealing with millions and millions, but his concept is for people that don't have that kind of money, don't have those type of resources to invest that type of money. But the concept don't change. The concept don't change. The information that he provided is the same concept in the way you want to go with it, whatever you got. Because I wasn't too good at math, Kiera, but I do know this. Anything is better than zero. You can work with 1, 2, 3. You can't work with zero. So that concept is good. So it don't shy off for somebody that's making $40,000, $50,000 a year. You can still some kind of way ease that concept in to whatever you're trying to do insurance-wise or whatever you're doing inheritance-wise, because you got to do it. It's not one of these things where I really ain't got to do that there, man. They're going to be like, no. You got to do it, but use that concept with what you got and make it work. So I like that. That's all I got, Kiera.
That's good.
I have a little different take. I see exactly what he's saying. But when I started out probably around 30 or so, I did term, and but as I started thinking, the piece that bothered me. So everything he's saying as far as the numbers are concerned, they work out well. But as I was probably about 10 years in, I started thinking, well, what if I mess around and live past 75? And so what he's saying is take the money that you're saving and then invest it into something else. And so, that kind of answers my question. What if you live beyond 75? Because if you mess around and live till you're 76 years old, then all of that money, the 800, I think he's the 180,000 something that you said, there's nothing at the end of that road. And, but he kind of, I think what made it personal is he kind of looked at his situation and said, okay, this is with this parent, this is with this parent, and there's a high likelihood that might be my reality. And so I think personally, this might be the best route for me. And so as I was just thinking about, thinking about my issue, I wanted to make sure that as it relates to life insurance, and Kiara said earlier that life insurance shouldn't be your only fallback. There should be other investments in addition to the life insurance. But as I was looking at it, I said what I want to do, I still want to have the security and the ability to, with the term, because it is lower and you get a high amount that you can make sure you leave to your family. But I don't want to mess around. And I would hate to be 74 years old and praying, God, this would be a good year to take me, And so what I did is start taking a certain percentage, probably about maybe 15 years ago, start taking percentages of my term and then putting it into a comprehensive piece, to where that piece right there wasn't making a lot of annual dividends, but at least, like a couple thousand a year, to where even when you have your insurance, and then now you have this money that's sitting there, cash that's available at any time, but now you're still covered for your whole amount. You pay more now, but for people that think like me, you have the security of saying, because I'm not real high risk in my thinking. I'm kind of like a low moderate risk in my thinking. And so it gives me a comfort level that says, okay, I still have a certain percentage of term to where I know my family is taken care of, but if I mess around and outlive my term, not only do I have this sum right here that's available, because there's money that's being set aside in annual dividends, but you also still have that a high amount that you're paying for your insurance, even though you're paying a lot more now. And so that's why I thought about that scripture that says getting wisdom is the wisest thing you can do. And whatever else you do, develop good judgment. And so I think it's really a personal thing, and what works best for my life when I analyze my life, and what's a good comfort level and risk level that I'm willing to take. And so I see this right here helped me see at least the thought into staying with all term, the fact that you're really just buying money, and you got high value at a low cost, but that's not the only money that you're putting aside for the inheritance for your children. So I can see how we think, but I choose to do it a little differently for the inheritance that I'll leave for my family.
Yeah. That it definitely can. It definitely, like, that's a really good point. It definitely matters how it's done. So, like, for example, if someone only got term and then they never invested, and then their term was over, they're really stuck in a hard place, because now the cost of the insurance is going up and they're not really having this whole plan for their family. The concept with term is more so the idea of taking the amount that you would have been paying for another type of insurance, whether it be a whole life, universal life, or index universal or variable life, and saying, hey, I'm going to take that extra money and I'm going to invest it. So, like, for example, if a 31-year-old got $1 million in term insurance, it would cost, for like a 35-year term, it would cost like $170 a month. If that same 31-year-old got $1 million in whole life, it would cost $628 a month. And so the difference between the 628 and 171 would be, let me pull my calculator up, 628 minus 171. So that would be $457 a month difference. So when we do the math on it, that's $5,484 a year. And that $5,484 a year, if I invested that while I had my term, by the end of the term, had I just averaged 10%, and the stock market has averaged over 10% over the last 40 years, had I averaged 10%, I would have 1.7 million. Well, a little over that, $1.7 million. And so it's the idea of the term is just pretty much to hold you over until you have enough insurance. Until you have enough money to where you don't need the insurance anymore. So I love the phrase, like, rent a pile of money until you can own a pile of money. Because the whole goal of the insurance is just for the cash, not necessarily where it comes from, but just of having that generational wealth, that cash that we could leave behind for our family. And something really cool that I learned is that the largest investor of mutual funds are banks and insurance companies. So what the banks and insurance companies do is they take money and they invest it into mutual funds. And a mutual fund, I think the best way, my favorite way to explain it is kind of like, imagine that you were investing into the Oaks Mall in Gainesville. And let's just say there's 100 stores, and you take your $100 and you put $1 in each store. Well, Sears is gone, so you lost that dollar. They're gone. But you have stores that might be doing pretty well, like they're growing. And so what a mutual fund does is it allows you to not put all your eggs in one basket, to diversify where your money is going. So, and then mutual funds are actively managed. And so you literally have people who get paid millions to manage billions, who are adjusting, and they're seeing what companies are potentially going out of business, and they're able to buy and sell and trade and manage this fund to basically put you in a position where you're able to be in a type of deal where it's like a set it and forget it, like a great long-term strategy. And one of my phrases that I like to share with people is, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. And so depending on your time frame would depend on what level of risk might be okay for you. So if someone's closer to retirement, they won't want to take as much risk because they don't have that time to be able to recoup from the ups and downs of the market. But if someone has 10, 20, 30 years until retirement, they have some time to be able to deal with the ups and downs of the market. And something really cool that I want to share is that when it comes to investing, I don't know if I'm necessarily allowed to share it because of compliance with my license and everything, but I'll just talk about it, like, because the presentation, I don't know if I can share it because we're live on everything. But there's this chart that I always show people. I'm like, which investor would you rather be? And one of them is an investor where when they started investing, the market just went up. So it started at $10 a share, then it was $12, $15, all the way up to $20 per share, and the market just went up. The other investor, when they started investing, it started at $10 a share. It went 7, 5, 2, and then just made it back to 10. And when I ask people what investor they'd rather be, like, everybody always says they'd rather be investor A, the one who invested in the market rose. But when we do the math, investor B actually made more money. And the reason why is because they were able to accumulate shares while they were on sale. When the market is down, that is when stocks are on sale. And so emotionally, when it comes to investing, the emotional decision is like, let's get rid of it. The market is down, let's get rid of it. But when we look at history, the wise, the intelligent investor says, oh my gosh, things are down. If I have some extra money, let me buy more. And what I teach my clients is just discipline. Like just figuring out amount that you can invest consistently. Maybe it's $100 a month, $500 a month, $1,000 a month. And what happens is, one, you're diversified. So instead of all your money being in one company, the average mutual fund has anywhere from 75 to 200 companies. And there might be companies like in a lot of the funds that I help my clients with, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Visa, MasterCard, and there's all these different companies in there. And so you're diversified, right, across industries, across companies. So that is a protection. And then dollar cost averaging, that is basically every month buying shares. And as the market is fluctuating, you're getting shares at different prices. But in the long term, you average spending less on your shares because of those shares that you bought when the market was down. And then discipline, just that consistency, it really pays off. It makes a huge difference. Something really exciting, if you think about it, if you were to invest, let's say a 20-year-old started investing and they invested, let's say they maxed out their Roth IRA. So they invested $500 a month, that's $6,000 a year. And they did that over the next 30 years. Literally with just an average rate of return of 10%, they'd have 1.9 million. But did you know they really only invested 210,000? That's how much they put in there. And so with the concept of buy term and invest in difference, it will fail every time if the only thing it's done is buying term without investing the difference. And the difference, people may say, well, what is the difference? The difference is that extra that you would spend in buying another type of insurance, that same amount in another type of insurance, because it's generally 3, 4, 5, sometimes even more times the cost. And so, like, for example, me and my husband, I remember we were sold $150,000 on him, $150,000 on me, and we were paying $200 a month. And this was before we learned the concept buy term and invest difference. And then we were able to learn how we could actually take that same amount of money, get double coverage on each of us for less than half what we were paying, and start investing that difference. And for us, it was a small amount. Like, we went from $150,000 to $300,000, but we went from paying $200 a month to $84 a month. That's huge. And then if you take 200 minus 84, and then since this was when we first learned, so since then we've increased our coverage a lot. But then the crazy thing is, we've increased our coverage almost 10 times more, but we're paying the same amount we were paying for the $150,000. But that savings for me and my husband would be $116 a month. So by taking that savings and putting it, and I'm doing the math right now, by putting it in an investment over the length of the term, that puts us in a position where we have over $400,000 by the time the term is over. So we got more insurance if we die for less than half the cost. And then by investing the difference that we would have been spending on insurance, we have more in investments than what we had with the insurance. But the insurance, I could only get it if I die. My goal is to live to 120. I mean, I don't know how long I'll live. I hope I can live at least to 100. I want to live a long time. But the buy term and invest a difference strategy doesn't have to be as risky depending on what your investments are in. And the one thing I love about mutual funds is some of them have track records that are over 100 years old. Over 100. And some of the companies I work with, literally 100-year-old track record. Nobody can guarantee the future. The whole world could fall apart. Everything can end. But what I do is I just look and say, okay, what is this track record? What is this history? And history has been shown to just repeat itself. And so when I look at different mutual funds and what they've done over the past 30, 40, 50, and 100 years, I'm able to get an idea of what may happen for me in the future. And it's a strategy that is extremely helpful, and that anybody can use. And one of the beautiful things about mutual funds is you don't have to do like a ton of research and know when to pull and what to do and where to put it, because the mutual fund allows you to kind of like set it and forget it and get yourself in a game plan to where you can just get compounding interest working for you, and you're diversified, and you don't have to think too much about all these different things, because you literally have people who get paid millions to manage billions who are researching and preparing and kind of putting those things in place. And you get the opportunity to invest where banks, insurance companies invest. You get to skip the middleman. Whenever you go through a middleman, they're always going to charge you when they help you make money, but with a mutual fund, you get to go directly to the source and start making your money the same way that the banks and insurance companies are making their money. And when you look around, banks are some of the nicest buildings. They're so nice. And when you not in Gainesville, we don't really have like tall. If we do have a tall bank, I haven't seen it. When you go to like Jacksonville or these bigger cities, they're like the tallest buildings in the city, the banks. And we have that opportunity to invest in the same thing that they're investing in, which is mutual funds.
It's good.
Oh, Roxy, you're muted. I saw your mouth moving, so I think you were trying to talk to us.
Unmute it now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I have a question. When you speak of mutual and sector, is that one and the same? Is that the same when they say sector? I'm more familiar with sector, where you have a group of, it could either be financial institutions, or it could be, let's say, earth moving companies. It could be auto supply companies. Is that sector and mutuals one and the same?
Yes.
They company. Okay, because I'm not, because I'm more familiar with sectors, and in terms of when you gave the example, and I'll just use this example where, and I believe that bill was passed where President Biden said that he's more focused on building bridges, and the infrastructure of the United States is falling apart, and he wants to put more people to work to labor to build those bridges and roads and things of that nature. So my first thought that came to mind was earth moving equipment companies, like your Caterpillar and some of your, I think it's Katoba, it's a Japanese company, where you're not investing in one company, but you're investing in a sector of companies. And like the example that you used, I think it was with like retailing. If Sears closed and you invest in that sector, but this say that JCPenney's is doing well or Neiman Marcus is doing well, it would not affect your investment. So when you say mutual and sector are one and the same?
They're similar. So a sector fund is just like a specialty fund, and there are mutual funds that are sector funds. So
Okay.
like, for example, I could have a mutual fund that's like spread across industries, where I have like health, retail, finance, real estate, like it's just
Right.
like really spread. Or I could have a mutual fund that's specific, like it really is all like innovative in like technology. Or I could have a mutual fund that's green, or a mutual fund that's just a fund that is all companies in Asia. Or so a mutual fund is more so the broad term, and then a sector fund is just like a type of specialty fund,
Okay.
to where it's still a mutual fund, but it's a specialty in a specific target. And I do have like some people who say, well, I want to only invest in funds that like support my beliefs. Like they're like, I don't want to invest in any companies that have anything to do with abortion or anything like that. Like there are specific specialty funds that allow someone to invest and still be diversified, but be spread out. But I mean, not spread out, still be diversified, but be narrowed in on a specific category.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so there could be a mutual fund that's like pretty much focused on real estate. So yeah, there's so many different mutual funds, so many different ones.
Okay. All right.
And then within mutual funds, there are different funds for different goals. So someone who is in retirement should have a different mutual fund because their goals are to produce income while they're in retirement and to preserve what they've built. Whereas someone like me might have a aggressive growth oriented mutual fund because that would be more suitable for my goals because I have like over 20 years to retirement and I'm more like, you know, I'm comfortable with like knowing what the market has done because I look back all the way to the 1920s and I'm like, if you look at a 10-year period, since the 1920s, mutual funds, the overall stock market has made money, but the news likes to highlight the losses, but there has actually been a greater percentages of positive than there are negatives when it comes to investing. Yeah, but yes, one and the same. It's just a type of mutual fund.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, we are coming to the end. We have about 3 minutes left. I guess we might have time for maybe one more comment or one more question. And if there are none, then we can wrap up our segment for today.
Yeah, I just pray that that people are listening and that they're gaining wisdom, and because it is godly to make sure that that we're good stewards over what God has blessed us with, and in that first scripture that we looked at that talked about let me go back and get it. That first scripture that we looked at,
Proverbs 13:22.
Yeah, it says good people leave an inheritance to their grandchildren, but the sinner's wealth is passes to the godly. And I think we have to work at being good people and not just living our lives for us, but being a little sacrificial, you know, and that's what we're talking about right now. Real talk, be a little sacrificial in our behavior, and considering those that we're supposed to be building a stronger foundation for. And so pray that everyone is listening and attempts to put some of these tools that you're being gifted with into practice.
Good night, everybody.
All right, everybody, you all take care. Thank you for joining. make sure you share the post so that people can receive the blessings that you've received. God bless you and have a great one.
Good night.